And staying on U.S. corporate news, professional networking site LinkedIn is still assessing a massive hack to its system recently. Multiple accounts have been compromised, but the motive behind the hack remains unclear. Some accounts have been locked or permanently deleted, while some users have reported ransom requests. With partial locks, users can still verify their accounts and update their passwords to regain access. But with a full account compromise, hackers gain access to both the account and the recovery email address. Users are being told to set up stronger passwords and implement a three-step verification process in order to better avoid a hack. To talk more about this and what the security breach means for users of the platform, I'm joined by Dan Ives. He's Managing Director of Equity Research at Wedbush Securities. Thanks so much for coming on, Dan. So let me ask you, what can you tell us about this hack and how widespread it is, and do we know who's behind it potentially?
Yeah, look, I think there's still more questions than answers, but it speaks to what's happening across a lot of these social media platforms. Without 2-3 factor authentication, you continue to see some of these hacks. It's worrisome, but ultimately it's not going to stop. This is going to continue to accelerate across the globe.
How dangerous is this type of hack? Because I know I myself was impacted. That's what brought my attention to this story. My account was basically hijacked. I have no access to 4,000 business contacts. At the same time, these hackers have all of my details, right? Access to professional contacts, etc. And it's really worrisome. So what impact can it have on professionals?
Well, I mean, it has significant, in terms of personal data, in terms of access. I mean, just like unfortunately you started being a victim of it. And I think this is just a scary situation that ultimately speaks to what we're seeing, not just on LinkedIn, but when you look at some other social media platforms, the hackers are going after. And the bad individuals, the bad actors, they're not going to stop. And that's why it's just more and more important that there's authentication and guardrails in there.
What sort of corporate responsibility is there? Because LinkedIn has really failed its users, I think, by being slow to respond to them. I haven't been contacted yet. I know I've reached out multiple times since Friday when I found out I had been compromised. You can't even get a live person on the phone. Many others complaining about the same sort of treatment on social media. And there's been no formal response. So what should corporate strategy be in this case? And what should they be doing to prevent this from happening again?
Yeah, I think unacceptable, in terms of, what you talk about your experience, because as a company, the first thing you got to do is be proactive. I think we've seen good examples of it, bad examples, because this is something for consumers. It's a worst nightmare, especially when you look at ransomware attacks and others. It's also trying to be proactive, guardrail, understand where the source came from, and really communication is the key. And I think that's something that in these hack attacks, as we've seen great examples, bad examples, and I think this continues to be a bit of a head scratcher.
What advice do you have for users like myself, of course, probably have a stronger password, don't have the same password for multiple different accounts, but how many passwords can you have? How many verification steps do you need to go through?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think there are things like LifeLock and others, in terms of different password accounts that you could have. Look, I do think 2-3 factor authentication is definitely one of the ways to go. Obviously, try not to log in, especially on Wi-Fi. I think hotspots at airports, public domains. I think that's one of the other things in terms of where you actually log into some of the secure websites, especially ones over Wi-Fi in hotels or public spaces.
I want to switch gears and talk more broadly about LinkedIn. Elon Musk has said he's considering going after LinkedIn, offering a job search platform. In such a competitive space, how is LinkedIn harnessing AI to help boost connections between prospective job seekers and employers?
Look, LinkedIn's really been the gold standard, right? And I think if you look at that Microsoft acquisition, that's paid for itself probably 8-10 times over. Look, I think that's going to be tough to try to go after that market. LinkedIn's really cornered that market. When you look at AI, I think more and more job seekers are going to be using that, matching from an algorithm perspective, matching up ultimately jobs with job seekers. But look, as we saw, look at Meta on Threads. Look what we're seeing across the board. You're seeing a lot of cross-pollination and competition happen when it comes to social media.
And so where does LinkedIn go from here? Because, you know, they've been dealing with layoffs themselves. They've had some claims of, you know, people using it more as a dating site and women mentioning that they've been harassed. Over 90% of female users say they've been harassed using LinkedIn. What sort of corporate strategy and cleanup efforts do you think they have to go after to keep people on their site? Because as you say, there is so much competition.
Look, it's a work in progress, but I mean, LinkedIn, if you look at it, they've essentially cornered the market, you know, when it comes to the job market, when it comes to connections. But, you know, I think it's something where I think social media, in terms of the threats, in terms of competitive nature, they're continuing to sort of work through this. I do think, you know, when you look what's happening, you are seeing more and more competition. A lot of it is really subscribers paying premium. That's obviously a significant amount per month. Users need to make sure that they're getting what they're paying for, you know, and I think that continues to be something that's very noteworthy, especially in a choppy macro.
Yeah, and including when you've had your account compromised like me, someone who's been on that site for, you know, over 10 years. I'm very disappointed at their response. We'll see how it all pans out. But thank you so much, Dan Ives, for stopping by.
Thank you.